Well, hi, I'm Ormrún Hrafnsdóttir. I made a recreation of a tablet woven brocade piece from Birka. Here's the finished piece. It's indigo silk and fine silver wire. The pattern is the one we worked out here. It's got a woven pattern and a sort of curly-Q pattern inside of a diamond. An interesting thing about this particular pattern is that it has what to a modern eye looks like some mistakes in it. So I wove both the mistakes and what the corrected pattern would have looked like. And I found that if you're in a workshop and there's several of you working together and one person calling the pattern and one weaver gets behind, these mistakes are what happen as you're trying to catch up. So I think this is an argument in favor of there was a workshop making this sort of thing in Birka at the time. I can't prove it, of course, but it is an interesting theory. These pieces would have been worn across the top of the apron dress, but not attached to it. So it would be looped behind the clasps so that you could take it off and wash the dress without messing up your wire work. Cleaning this piece, you would have to carefully soak it in cold water so as not to mess up the silk backing, and then dry it also very carefully and as quickly as you can to avoid tarnishing the silver. Now, some of the bands we found show signs of having been repolished after they'd been made. So this is a new band and it's nice and shiny, but eventually the silver will tarnish. And we have evidence that some of these bands had been repolished by running them back and forth on a wooden peg like this. That would scrape off the top of the silver wire and make it shiny again without damaging the silk too much. We found several pieces of this sort of work at Birka in Sweden. The largest piece, which is what this is modeled off of, was 1.2 centimeters wide by 9.5 centimeters long. These graves in Birka were from around 1100 AD. Normally, tablet weaving, such as on this loom, you have however many tablets it takes to make your pattern. You turn them either forward or back to bring up different threads for your pattern. And then your weft thread goes across and holds everything in place. For a brocaded pattern like this one, you have a base weft thread going just straight across every time, and then you also have your wire or other fancy glittery thread that sits on top of various threads in each trip across. Working with wire is a little bit harder because wire does not bend like thread. You have to stop after each pick going across, bend your wire carefully across so that it bends in the correct spot and not in any other spots, because if you bend wire too many times, it will break. We have examples of this done with silver wire or gold wire. A few pieces have both in the same piece, alternating back and forth. It appears not on any sort of pattern, so they may have just been using up little bits of leftover wire. So it's hard to tell whether this was a elites only for the very rich, or whether a merchant's wife might have worn this, because it's overrepresented in the graves due to it lasting better than other things. Because of the metal, this sort of weaving lasts better than something made of purely of silk or purely of linen. The metal will ionize the silk as it sits in the grave, and where normally the organic material would be completely gone. You can see in the example here, there are places where the silk is completely gone, but the wiggly bit of wire going back and forth is still there. While weaving this, in addition to finding the interesting piece about the mistakes in the pattern and how that can happen in a workshop, the tension in the thread, and you can see all the threads go around, the brocaded parts of the pattern will up the tension very quickly as the threads have to go over the fancy wire, whereas the non-brocaded parts will just go straight and will remain loose. So as you weave, some of your threads tighten up and some don't. And it makes it really hard to manage the tension.